Hi, welcome back to my channel, to the fourth and final video of my series on my cancer experience or cancer journey or what all else I've called this. Trying something a little new. Got the phone propped up so I'm not holding it while I do this. I think where I left off last time was July 24th was the last day of chemo. It's the day I got to ring the bell. Ow, I just got bit by a cat. And it's a really weird experience when you do that. Well, at least for me it was. A lot of people will bring like their entire family with them. It's a huge, because it's the end of such a journey, it's an amazing moment. I had me and my husband and my nurse that day and some of the people from the cancer center, which was lovely, and they were lovely, and you know, all of the nurses that I had were fantastic. But as much as I loved my husband and loved sharing that with him and it just being us, it was also sad that like my mom wasn't there because she didn't feel like it. And you know, that it wasn't as notable a deal for other people as it was for me. But they hadn't been through what I'd been through. My lighting is terrible and I can't tell if I'm in focus or not. The joys of being half-assed blind. My camera cut off and I don't know why, so we're gonna pick up from the backpack that I brought with me. I had a very plush, very comfortable throw because when you're sitting in one place for a super long time, you get chilly. I had an extra charging cable, an extra plug, an extra battery for whatever needs I had that day because I was on my phone a lot. Because what else am I going to do? Read a book? I had headphones, so that's when I started listening to the radio and podcasts and stuff like that. Or music, you know, online music and podcasts a lot to fill the time. You want to bring headphones so you're not rude to your chairmates. Or your pod mates, I guess, because each little area is a pod. I tended to bring warm socks with me. A lot of my stuff was in the spring and summer, so I was wearing flip-flops or lightweight shoes. My feet would get cold, so I just would throw the socks on for a while and just chill out. I had a journal with me sometimes because writing helped me, you know, process my feelings about this, my anger and my frustrations, and just kind of you know, write down the experience. If you bring a Kindle, a Nook, a tablet, or a book to occupy your mind that way, I tried to always keep some stuff like pretzels or crackers or granola bars or something that was easy to keep in there for an extended period of time. Because I was in there for so long, even if I had a meal, I needed some snacks usually. Or just dry snacks like that would help with the nausea. Food and drink. Because when you get there at 10 in the morning or 9 in the morning and you're there until 4 in the afternoon, you need at least one meal. The chemo drugs really changed my taste, but I found one of the few things that kept well for an extended period of time, and I don't want to think about the bacteria in it by the time I ate it, was a grilled chicken sandwich from Sonic and their sweet tea. And I would get a large sweet tea because there was enough of the good ice. And y'all know what I mean, the good ice. There was enough in there that I could fill it up with water once, maybe twice, and still have ice enough to keep the water cool. Now, to be fair, my cancer center was great about a lot of things. They always had drinks. They always had snacks and stuff like that for people. But I tried to be as self-reliant as I could. The other thing that was super important during that time was to really appreciate the nurses and the staff there. Because, yeah, you're grumpy as hell because you're there for hours and hours. And you don't feel good and you're tired and all of that. But as long as you've been there, they've been there longer. And they've seen a lot of stuff. And they've seen a lot of bad stuff and a lot of good stuff. And they're the ones who are there holding people's hands when their doctors tell them that there's no more chemo that they can do for them. And they're the ones who are helping the people who don't have anyone there with them. So I didn't stay in touch with them, but while I was there, I got very close to some of the nurses. We're not terribly religious in my house, as an understatement. But I will say, even if you're not terribly religious or very faith-based, don't discount pastoral care. I know for me, I had some lovely, completely unrelated to faith conversations with the pastoral care lady. And sometimes just having a conversation with another person is very helpful. One of the most difficult parts of this experience was trying to normalize everything and make it less scary for my daughter, for our daughter, who was 4 years old at the time. Initially, we just kind of told her that I was sick, I was going to have surgery, and it was going to fix it. And then we told her I was going to have medicine afterwards. And then we changed it to silly medicine, because it made me do silly things, like having to pull over to the side of the road and throw up. Or, I'm sorry, would be proper, and to vomit. To have emesis. And make my hair fall out. At the time, my daughter was a big fan of the show Bubble Guppies. If you're not familiar, be grateful. It's cute, but just be grateful. Anytime you don't need to know about weird kids shows, be happy about it. But and it's some preschool mermaid children and their teacher, a clownfish. And one episode was about hairstyles. And the teacher decides he would prefer to be bald as a fish. So this became the ongoing thing in my house as I lost my hair. That I was bald as a fish. I was going to be bald as a fish, and then I was bald as a fish. And so that was fun. We also were very upfront with a lot of the things that were going on. She was aware of where my portacath was, and she'd felt the hardness of it beneath my skin. She knew about the drains that I had during the breast surgery, and bless her heart, she wanted to help me with them. It's a little weird. She actually gained a lot more medical experience in seeing surgery, the outcomes of my surgery and everything later on. We were as honest as we could be at an appropriate age. And we tried to give her references that she would understand, like bald as a fish. The one disagreement, and I never actually had a disagreement with the pastoral care lady. It was just, it kind of happened. She suggested a book to me to help my daughter with chemo, or to understand what was going on with me. And I hated this book with a passion. It was awful. To me, anyway. Because one of the things we never talked about since I'd had an early stage cancer, and we knew that I was being treated, was the prospect of possible death. Well, in this book, one of the kids that is who was about my daughter's age was terrified of their mother dying. Also in this book, the mother was kind of let's just say to me, in my opinion, compared to how I was handling things and how a lot of the people that I knew were handling things, she just didn't handle things the way I did. She was kind of whiny. Now, I know different people handle things different ways. It just was not... I'd ordered it on Amazon. It didn't have a preview. I wish it had, because then I would be able to see that this was not the appropriate vehicle for us and our family. It was not a good fit. At least I didn't think it was. My daughter, however, loved this damn book. And the thing about the mom being kind of whiny, in my opinion, about it was, while I hate all of the, the warrior crap, like when people call me a warrior, it just irks me, because like I had surgery, I took meds, that doesn't really qualify me as a warrior in my eyes. In any case, I did want her to see strength, though, and that book wasn't cutting it. So, she's 7 now. She's older and wiser and wise-asser. And she's seen a lot of stuff go on and been at doctor's appointments and seen in, been in a room where they had to fix stitches after one of my surgeries and all of that, which I'll get to in a minute. But, so we tell her a little more, about what my sickness was and what cancer can do, but still in small stages. It actually works out kind of well, because her teacher this year is also a breast cancer survivor, so they've talked about that a little bit too. Unfortunately, the end of chemo is not the end of my story. Well, that it would be. That would be nice. But it wasn't. Actually, the worst part of my story, I think, or at least some of the worst parts of my story, came after the chemo. I worked from home a lot, but for a bi-monthly meeting that we had, I had to go into the office and prepare some paperwork. So at the end of July, right after chemo had finished, I was going into the office to get ready for this meeting, and my boss didn't know I was going to be in the office that day. And I didn't know he was going to be in the office that way. We just happened to run into each other. And that was the day he told me that his wife quit her job and she'd be taking my job. So after 10 years of working for him, on like almost like a contractor basis, although I had a steady paycheck. It wasn't a good steady paycheck, but it was a steady paycheck. After almost 10 years of working together, he said, don't need you, bye. And then the post-chemo checkups started. And at first, it was the very first month afterwards, I had a checkup with the oncologist. And I had told him that I'd been real short of breath and kind of lightheaded sometimes and stuff like that. So we did an EKG, and my resting heart rate was 125 beats per minute. The average resting heart rate is between 60 and 100 beats per minute. So he was a little alarmed and had me go to the cardiologist. The cardiologist's office did an echocardiogram, which, interestingly enough, there's the ECG that everyone gets, and then there's a special, deeper, more detailed ECG that people who've had chemo and people who have a history of heart disease get. So, and it was really interesting to watch. God bless the woman doing the test who was running the ECG that, answered all my stupid questions amidst trying to get me to shut up so she can concentrate on doing the ECG. I had some heart damage from the chemo. That was the first issue that was going on. So I was prescribed carvedilol, which I'm still on and will probably be on forever, because if I go off of it for very long, I feel it. But after the echocardiogram, which of course is what the echocardiogram is it's ultrasound basically of your heart. Now, if you've ever had an ultrasound done, you know that they press very hard. And the ultrasound was done primarily on the left side to get good visualization of my heart. And I realized when I was writing my notes down for this for the first time, that's probably where all my issues started. Well, my next bout of issues started. I started getting sharp pains in the left breast, or at least the left breast skin, because I didn't have any tissue left. The breast was gone. But what I had under there was the expander, which we had not done any expansion on yet. I visited the plastic surgeon about the pain, and we made a plan to start, since I was done with chemo, we made a plan to start doing the fills on the tissue expanders. Of course, before that could happen, I started having more issues. The exam he gave me was very cursory, just kind of, yeah, everything's fine, just we'll start filling them, it'll be okay. I am a terrible self-advocate. Now, give me my kid, I'll ask you 1,000 questions. My husband's in the hospital, I'll ask you 1,000 questions about their treatment, about my own treatment. I tend to just roll with it. I should have raised hell about him brushing off this pain. I should have raised hell with my plastic surgeon a lot more than I did about a lot of things. In October, I had a hysterectomy and oophorectomy, which was actually the easiest part of my recovery process. But he almost canceled it at the very last second, like that morning, because I had a very low-grade fever. And that left breast, where I'd been having some problems, had fluid beating up on top of the skin, which is a problem. But the gynecologist continued with the surgery because he'd be prescribing me an antibiotic, and that should contain any potential infection, which is what he assumed that was. My experience with this hysterectomy was the robotic laparoscopic surgery, and that was absolutely the way to go, at least until Skynet is active. Then, don't trust anything robotic. By October 16th, the expander that had been sweating almost in my chest broke through the skin. That was fun. And while I was unsure what to do with that, because I'd never had that happen, I went to my local ED. They were all lovely, but they'd never seen this happen either. So I had 8 million people in and out of my room, looking at it, poking at it. And then they had to draw blood for blood work. Well, I already explained the being extremity restricted, so I'm down to one arm. The chemo has destroyed the veins in that one arm. Still, they poked me at least 8 times trying to find a vein, and finally they had to go into the foot. That was fun. I don't suggest getting blood drawn from your foot if you can help it. They talked to my ED doc, or they talked to my plastic surgeon on the phone. They gave me a shot of Rosefin, which is a fast-acting antibiotic. And then they gave me another, they renewed the script that the gynecologist had given me for the over-the-counter antibiotic, or not the over-the-counter, but the pill antibiotic. And they sent me on my way to follow up with my plastic surgeon. During the follow-up with the plastic surgeon, he cut open my chest and pulled the expander out in the office. That was fun. Now, I will say he did lidocaine it up. I didn't feel any of it, but it was a weird thing to watch. And we decided that I needed to, well, he decided that I needed to open heal because if he stitched it closed, one, the skin was damaged, so the stitches probably wouldn't hold, and two, all of it would allow the infected fluid to escape. From there, we planned my actual reconstruction. Rather than put another expander in and do expansion, we just chose implants that would fit where my skin was at that point. And that was fine because he wanted me to be as big as I was before. I didn't want to be that big ever again because, oh my God, that was uncomfortable. So my options were to go direct to implant, which I already said we decided to go to implant, or what they call a deep flap reconstruction, where they take skin and make more breast tissue, and I don't really understand how it goes because at that point I was taking care of a 4-year-old. My husband is an over-the-road truck driver. He's only home on the weekends, and that surgery has a longer recovery time. I needed a shorter recovery time as possible. If you ever have to open heal from a wound, sanitary products, women's sanitary products, make fantastic bandages. And they are, despite the whole pink tax thing, a lot cheaper than buying actual gauze and stuff like that, because the crap gets expensive over time. So November 15th was implant day. Like the hysterectomy, I was home in a few hours. And in just over a week, that left breast opened right back up. And with my now 5-year-old daughter, I went back to my plastic surgeon. She sat in the chair, basically torn between my phone and watching him as he re-lidocained up my chest and pulled the implant out. But after he took the implant out, he did I think he stitched it closed? I don't remember now. He stitched it closed, thinking that all the infection was gone, just that all the skin was damaged and wouldn't hold closed over the implant, is what I recall. Unfortunately, but this was at the end of October, and by Thanksgiving, I wound up having a really high fever. Like on Thanksgiving Day, I came home from our family gathering wanting to die, thinking I was gonna die. My husband had to call the doctor's office. He called in an antibiotic, and that was it. What I've learned in support groups and stuff like that is the recurring issues with infection that I have are normally treated with IV antibiotics and like an inpatient stay in the hospital. At least a day or two to make sure that the infection is going down. I ignored red flags about my plastic surgeon repeatedly, like all the stuff he did in the office. That may be completely normal. I don't know. I don't know anything about plastic surgery, but it didn't seem right that I wasn't taken care of, that my feelings were belittled, that the pain that I was having initially, had he addressed it appropriately, probably wouldn't have led to all of these issues I had. But at this point, rather than find another surgeon, I just wanted this to be done. I wanted to be done with all of this. So finally, the implant was removed, and it led to another round of open healing. And now the skin is closed and non-infected, and it just looks super weird. It's puckered and damaged, or not really damaged, it's just not the same. However, despite what it sounds like, not everything during this time was bad news. I had worked at a hospital many, many years ago. That's where I met the doctor that I worked for, that had just fired me. And my aunt worked there. Several of my family members work in this hospital system. I was bringing my daughter up for their annual Christmas party because my aunt wanted to show her off, because she's a better mama than my mom is a grandma. That's a whole nother story. But I ran into who was a former coworker at the time, who was the department head now. And the people that I worked for previously no longer worked there. And she asked me if I needed a job. And she was only halfway kidding, but was super overjoyed when I said, actually, yeah, I do need a job. So by February of that year, I had a job back at the hospital that I had been working at previously. Which, could be worse. And I was working up there up until last February, when I fell at work, breaking my femur for a year. That's still not healed yet, which is another story for another day. What I decided to do, rather than reconstruct again, was take kind of my own power into my own hands and decide to go flat. In the doctor's office, I had the plastic surgeon remove the other implant. And of course, hearing so many things about breast related illnesses and stuff like that, I'm extra happy about this decision. Not that I think that would have happened to me, but it eliminates one more factor. Now, I'm not completely flat right now. I have what are known as dog ears, which is extra skin on the sides and stuff like that. And I just kind of hold all that together with like sports bras now. But going from specialty ginormo bras to off-the-rack sports bras, oh my god. And going from I look at pictures of myself before and I go, how the hell did I carry those suckers around? As I said, right after the breast surgery, it was the easiest 10 pounds I ever lost. Cancer has been the gift that keeps on giving. Because even at the stage that I am now, which is remission, no evidence of disease, because the cancer that I had was estrogen and progesterone reactive, I had the hysterectomy, and the oophorectomy was not enough. Apparently, your fat cells can produce low levels of hormones. So I have to be on a hormone blocker. Which, so far, I had lost my hair, although I have that back, apparently, obviously. I lost my boobs, and now I was losing the last vestiges of my hormones that made me female. It's kind of a weird feeling. And of course, one of the side effects of that, plus the side effect of the chemo, is bone weakening and osteoporosis and all of these things that, again, added to another story for another day that I can't talk about right now. My biggest takeaway from all of this, and the whole reason that I made these 4 ridiculously long videos, is to research all your options. Research the fuck out of all your doctors. Read the reviews, because I have read some terrible reviews of my plastic surgeon since going to him. As a matter of fact, when I went for a checkup recently with my initial breast surgeon, the cancer breast surgeon's nurse practitioner, I had said something about feeling a little botched, and she, of course, she'd read my chart, so she remembered. She goes, "Oh, you went to Dr. So-and-so, right?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Oh, well, when you're ready to get that taken care of, we'll refer you to someone else." I'm clearly not the first person who's had complaints about this doctor. So now, I've had, in going to checkups, and, you know, I go every 6 months for my breast center checkups are once a year now. And that's just to make sure that the surgery sites are healing well, and you know, I don't have anything to mammogram anymore. So if they felt anything weird, they would do an ultrasound and take it from there to check the tissue and all of that. And my checkups with oncology are every 6 months. Although I just had a bone scan, because apparently having a break that's taken more than a year to heal has my doctor concerned about bone loss. I don't know why. But that's it. That's where I am now. Every medical thing that comes up now, it's always in the back of my mind. What if it's back? What if it's a new occurrence? What if it's, you know, there's 1,000 what ifs that come with every time you're sick. But it could be worse, because I'm not sick. There's been no evidence of a recurrence yet. I'm keeping up with my doctor's appointments now, after a year and a half-ish of not seeing one. That's a whole insurance thing. But I'm in a good place now. I'm in a good place with this now. But just know your options. Have someone to talk to. Have a good support system. And if you don't have physical people around you to support you, go online, look for people. Hit me up. I'll support you. And that's it. I think that's all she wrote. I mean, literally, that's all she wrote. I think next time I'm going to talk about my experience that is apparently not over just yet, technically. Although, for me, it ended already with Sensi. That should be fun. Thanks so much. Bye.